Hello,
Hi,
everyone. Well, good morning, Dr. P. How are you today?
I'm good, Tiffany. Thank you for adjusting the time, your flexibility. Thank you very much.
Anytime,
And Miss
anytime.
Price too for
Yeah.
adjusting your time.
Well, we have
Yes,
to be flexible to be teachers, don't we?
yes,
Part of the
exactly.
job. So, Dr. P, would you like to introduce? Oh, well, first of all, we need to remind everyone what our podcast is about. So, the
Yeah.
Educator Spotlight is where we have a partnership that's built on empowering minds, inspiring futures, and in supporting educators today.
And we are highlighting and paving the way for difference makers. So that's where we are right now. We're for our podcast to inspire other teachers who will be difference makers one day.
Exactly. And we know that they are making that difference every day in the classroom too, right? So, getting it
Yes.
started, yes, I know you meant that, but so getting started, we're going to introduce, I was going to see if you wanted to introduce today's guest, Dr. P.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to say that this teacher who I knew, I first came to that school and then she came, but she was just like she was there like I was there 10 years ago at that school. And we were able to have a conversation. She's really a good team. She is in my department, but she said that it's her first time doing that thing. But I said, hey, if it's your first time, you feel like you're a professional doing this thing right here, because for special education you have a lot of paperwork. But with her military background, she applied it to obey first before you complain. And she really doesn't complain. She just do what's her best. And what I like with her is when you tell her that, hey, this is the thing that we have to do to make things successful, she is always listening to you. And I was her I observed her class many times, and whatever it is that I'm going to to tell her to improve class, either it's discipline, either it's classroom management, or the instruction itself. She is always yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. And this is
Mhm.
one kind of a teacher you want to have under your wing, because you want a teacher who is not just following you, but someone who really wants to improve herself for her personal and professional growth. So I would like to introduce my friend and my co-teacher before, Miss, and then I call her Mrs. Rice now
Mhm.
because she has a new last name. So welcome to our podcast, Miss Rice.
Hi, thank you.
Well,
Thank you for having
congratulations
me.
on your marriage.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we are very glad to have you, and thank you for that beautiful introduction. Shows that you all had a strong connections, and so glad that y'all still are able to be connected, and that we can invite her to our podcast. So, Ms. Rice, we are going to ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you on this journey into teaching.
I grew up in Shreveport, Bossier. I was in the military. I was military police. I got out, and I'm actually 90% service connected. I got out, and I thought I was gonna be a civilian in the same career field, and
Mhm.
my body wouldn't let me.
Oh.
And so at the time, I also had 3 kids. And I was like, I still had to provide for my kids.
Mhm.
What's the next best option? And I figured, hey, a school teacher. And also at the time, my daughter, she's in the 7th grade now, and I might cry.
Oh, that's
Um,
okay.
but she was a struggling reader. I was a stay-at-home mom prior to going back to the workforce, and I was like, this is my time with the kids. She missed a lot with me in the military. Being military police, the job was very demanding.
Mhm.
Um, I'm sorry.
Oh, this
We-
is great. This is telling your story. You want to hear it.
so at the
Mhm.
time when I was in the military, she didn't call me mom. She called me by my first name. That's how much I miss being with
Wow.
the kids.
Yeah.
Um, So I wanted a job where I can focus more on my family, and teacher was the next best thing. She struggled reading, and it wasn't until I became a teacher where I understood. what I did wrong as a parent and her deficiencies she was having at the time.
Mhm.
And I'm a big baby, so I cry all the time. But I cried when they stated, hey, she may need to repeat kindergarten, but we prefer her to repeat first grade. And I was like, I don't want my baby to repeat any grade. That's kind of
Mm.
like embarrassing. And well, it became a humbling experience. And I went from teaching from there. I promised my kids I would go to school and I wouldn't go back to work until my youngest son is in kindergarten. I went back when he was in the first grade. And so that led me to teaching. And now that I am in special education, I totally understand how hard and difficult and kind of sympathize with the parents
Mhm.
what they're going through when their child is not on grade level or struggling in school period.
Yes. Wonderful. Wow, that's a really nice story to hear. I mean, like you said, we all have different reasons as to why we went into teaching, but that really hits home because you're dealing with your own child, and then you know
Right.
how parents feel when their children have similar experiences to yours. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Mhm. So, we got your bio. So it kind of sounds like your why, because we did ask what your why was, and you stated it's to provide a place where students feel loved and where
Mhm.
education is fun. And so I think that sums it all up. But we would love to hear how your students feel loved and how you feel make your students feel loved in your room, and how do you promote education being fun in the classroom?
So when I first started teaching, I was teaching science and social studies fourth grade.
Okay.
And Dr. P knows at that time I probably had 70, 80 kids. It
Hmm.
was like, okay,
Right.
my first year teaching and it's a lot.
Mhm.
And those who are in education, you know that social studies didn't have a real curriculum.
Mhm.
It was just a scope and sequence, some standards, and you follow them and you make best of what they gave you.
Mhm.
So it was very challenging. And at that time, my team was Dr. P. I had Miss Fletcher, Miss Richard, and Miss Pamela Von Peterson. And
Mhm.
so I became very close with them. And it was kind of hard to build a connection with some of the children my first year. The second year was different. I had more of a connection with them. I realized that some of their parents I actually grew up with. And then as I moved to special education, it became even more personal because I have a smaller group of kids. I can focus on them. I would say this year is my best year in education. The group I have, some of them I have had for this is the second year, and I have parents, they feel so comfortable that they can just text me and say, hey, Miss Rice, I'm sorry, we're dealing with this. Can you help me with this? Um, and making the parents, one parent text me the Friday we got off of fall break. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
The Friday we got off of fall break, and she said, I love you. We're family now.
Mhm.
And I tell people all the time, you probably can't do what I do for my kids if you had 70 kids, because I couldn't do it. But this particular student, I had a birthday party for him.
Mhm.
And some other kids wanted to come in the classroom. They were like, you can't come in my teacher classroom. We're having a birthday party. We have birthday parties every month. And that's something our kids don't get probably at home. And
Mhm.
so building a relationship with them to where they know they are loved, they know that, hey, my birthday is coming up and Miss Rice is going to do something, whether it's a bag of chips or a full blown party, that
Mhm.
they look forward to coming to school. They know that at the end of the day, I'm going to get something positive from Miss Rice, whether I get the answer wrong or get it correct. I'm going to put my best effort forward because I want to please her. I want to make her happy and her comfortable so I can be happy and comfortable. And so I just love my kids this year. So,
Well, so exciting. And I'm sure they love you too.
yes, ma'am.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember, I think it's an old sayings from the old folks way, way before that the students that we have will not remember how much we are teaching them, like the geometry, the math, the ELA, the science, social studies. What our students remember the most are the things, the actions that we show them that they are feel loved and cared for. Because, the kids that we have at our school, they need it the most. And doing the birthday party, doing like a candy thing, and I know you have like the chips at the end, as a reward for their good behavior, is really working. And not all teachers do those things. Not everybody does. And for those who really understand the nature of the children that we serve in the kind of neighborhood that we are
Mhm.
in, we know that it's working. We know that it's working.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. And I remember, even though this would have been year 30 had I stayed in working for the district. But I remember when I first started teaching, that was a saying that Madeline Hunter stated, that students
Mhm.
don't care how much you know until they know how
Exactly.
much you care. And I know exactly what you're talking about there, Dr. P.
Correct. Yeah.
Um, those actions and the interactions, the connections, the relationships are
Mhm.
what's really going to keep students connected and realizing that I was heard, I was valued in my room, and my teacher cared about me as a person. And it makes a big difference to even hear when you stated about the parents as well, because parents want to be our partners in their children's education. And if we're not careful, sometimes the parent can be our biggest cheerleader that's going to help us get those
True. Mhm.
where they need to be. So just hearing you say that that parent mentioned that to you that Friday, I
Mhm.
bet that was a great way to start your fall break.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah. So,
And
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
okay, yes, ma'am. You mentioned about when you came at that school, Miss Rice, you kind of like run you to teaching, and then you were surrounded with people who have more years of experience. But did it kind of like scare you? I'm not gonna use the word scare, but it how did you feel about that? Because you also put in your information that the importance of teamwork and the reality of the students that we teach. So how did those teachers who have more experience than you kind of like support you in a way to where you are right now?
I want to say, from my experience,
Mm-hmm.
a educator prep program, alt-cert program, even a college program don't prepare you to teach students at a Title I school who is below grade level.
Right.
Correct. Uh-huh.
Period.
Mhm.
So I'm having all these tools in my pocket that doesn't work for the kids that I serve.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I take Miss Fletcher, for instance. She was the ELA teacher my first year. He's
Mhm.
like, and I used to be Miss Shite. So Miss Shite, this
Mhm.
word, you got to try this. And I was coming into teaching from COVID.
Mhm.
So everything was new for everyone.
Mhm.
So what I was taught in school didn't work because it was from an ideal perspective from a student that at grade level or slightly below, and in a regular classroom where we're not on Zoom, we're moving around, we don't have to wear face masks. And so Miss Fletcher gave me a lot of pointers. However, and it worked for me in social studies. Miss Vaughn Peterson, she was a math person.
Mhm.
And she was directly next door to me. So when it came to behavior management, and she's always been awesome from what I have seen with behavior management. She said, "Hey, do this, do that. You got to do this. You got to do that." And Miss Richard, she was kind of new, but she have sub in the district for years. And she kind of already knew these children. And so she gave me some pointers, especially with my lower kids, because she preferred to work with the special education kids.
Mhm.
And then Dr. P, you was the inclusion teacher
Mhm.
at that time. And so you came into my room and I would just watch you and watch what you did with your kids. And it was like, okay, I'm kind of getting it. And then I'm not perfect. So I will always say, hey, I need help with this. Or if my co-teacher seen I was struggling with this, point out, Miss Shai, you need this. And Miss Fletcher, one thing that she taught me with behavior was a conduct chart. And I
Mhm.
still use that same conduct chart today. And I didn't realize how important it was with a conduct chart until my second year. I didn't have a lot of behavior issues my first year, but my second year, it was like I had students doing stuff and they say, go home and say, I didn't do that.
Mhm.
Did you see that conduct chart? And so those little tidbits and tools that I got from my co-teachers really helped me out that I still use today in my 5th year of teaching.
That is so good to hear, because that community does matter. It
Yes.
does. So glad to hear that you had that support. And one thing I thought about as you were talking, first of all, we're going to say thank you for your service, because you
Thank
said,
you.
yeah,
Yeah, we forgot to
your
say that.
service.
Thank you.
Yes, and then we want to say thank you for your teaching service as well, because you're in two service related industries. And so without either one of those, those are so important to our country, we're looking at when you're serving in the armed forces,
Mhm.
you're, keeping us safe, you're helping us to remain free. And when you are teaching in schools, you're preparing our future. So just thank you for both of those.
Thank
Pat
you.
yourself on the back for that. Okay. So, one thing we usually ask is like, how do you promote self-care? Because it's so important that as teachers and educators, we put self-care first, because if we're not taking care of ourselves, we can't take care of students, we can't take care of our families. So, how do you promote that self-care for yourself?
Well, everyone is different. I'm sitting in my garage. I love kids.
Hmm.
So I'm sitting in my garage because right now I have 3 of my kids at home plus 2 more. So,
Oh.
right. And so
Mhm.
I have 5 kids at my house. Normally I have 7 on the weekends. But one thing I love to do and with my kids and my family is build. And I'm sitting in my garage and y'all probably uh all the building material. I don't know if y'all see,
Yes.
but
See it.
my brother and I were building my daughter a playhouse, and I love to work on cars. And
Oh.
so being a teacher, I didn't realize how much it took away from your family too, because I thought being in the military was very demanding. But
Mhm.
however, when you're a teacher, you still have to come home and grade papers,
Mhm.
or you stand at school and grade papers. So at this time, you have to make lesson plans. And if you are a part of any extracurricular activities that you sponsor at school, that's time away. So something I have done to help focus on my family and take care of myself is to enjoy my hobbies with my children. And surprisingly, they have taken up the love for working on cars and building and gardening. I don't know if Dr. P remember, I find it a challenge for myself. I like to challenge myself to grow sunflowers. I love sunflowers. And one year I grew sunflowers 16 feet.
Mhm.
And so doing the things I love outside helped
Mhm.
me take care of myself. And it's something that my children love to do. So that's spending time with them also.
Oh, that's wonderful. I
She's
love
a big sunflower fanatic. Like in her classroom, you see a lot of sunflower.
Mhm.
Her wristwatch is like if a sunflower, anything is about sunflower. So she's just into sunflower.
That's a beautiful flower. Well, thank you for that. Um, and that is, like you stated, so important to be able to take time. And I'm so glad to hear you say you're able to take time with your children and other children on the weekend. I know some teachers are like, well, I deal with kids all during the week. I need this time for myself. But it's obvious that you love children because you're still around them. And so, and if that's what makes you feel comfortable in your self-care routine, that is wonderful to hear that they are all able to do that with you.
Mhm.
So, if you had to give advice to a new teacher or a more inexperienced teacher, doesn't mean that when we say inexperienced, they're not capable. It just means, as far as usually we're thinking about inexperience, usually between 0 to maybe 1 to maybe 3 years. Or a novice teacher. So what would you tell a novice teacher if you're noticing they're struggling with just their time management or struggling with classroom management? What's some advice you might give that particular teacher?
Talk to your team. I work, well, Dr. Pino, Brittany Thomas. It's my best friend. She's been teaching longer than I have. However, she still struggle, and it's like, hey, you got to stay on this. She have moved from regular ed to sped.
Mhm.
And so it's very overwhelming. And if you have a teacher that love what they do, love the people around them, they don't mind helping. They don't mind sharing what works for them. And I have worked with teachers who been teaching longer than I have, where what they did doesn't work anymore. And so we have shared ideas where have been more flexible with their time management. I feel what Dr. P knows, at our school, you have so much going on because not only do you have your curriculum you need to teach, but you're also trying to teach RTI or whatever we can to help our students improve. So one thing my principal have implemented this year is fun learning. So anytime where we're outside the classroom, where it's not supposed to be instructional time, we have implemented flashcards or something like that. That's time management. If you're going to have a test, hey, go these questions while y'all walking down the hallway. Flash these cards to go these sight words. That's something that can help you with time management, or you can do your fluency. Like I know Zern has fluency. If we're taking a 5-minute restroom break, go to that fluency right now so you can have more time to focus on the core instruction in class. Just anywhere where you can fit any extra time will work for you. And I would say what I use year 1, 2, 3, 4, and now 5, I may not use again because every student is going to be different. Every group is going to be different. And I have changed things up, even though I have some of the same students. I realized what I did last year, it didn't work as well as I wanted to. So I have seen it work different this year because I switched up a little. So it's all about seeing what's worked, but don't wait until we're in the third 9 weeks to say, oh, this haven't been working the first 9 weeks. Let me change it around. It's too late. It's too late.
Right. It's too late because most of your school year has already gone by. And it's not that you're never saying that you can't change something, but usually the consistency is what's going to help students
Right.
better. And so if you're waiting until the 9 weeks, yes, that might be a bit too late. Well, that's some really great sound advice. Dr. P, is there anything else that you wanted us to talk to Ms. Rice about that you might have any questions?
I don't have any more questions to Ms. Rice, but I like Tiffany, you have been out in the school system, and I know you're still on in the education world, but like I could really say that the requirements to be a teacher this time around is just exhausting. That's why the fall break that we have, any breaks that we have that we will be away from school is really necessary for our mental health. And when you mentioned about taking time for your family, we are able to make it balanced. So from life, from personal, professional, family. So we'll just make sure it's balanced. And I agree with all those points that you're explaining about what you are going to tell to a new teacher. Flexibility. If you're new, you learn how to be flexible. You learn how to communicate. You learn how to reach out, because these will be your team for the entire school year if you decide to stay in that school. And learning from the people who will be there more years than you is a kind of dedication. And teaching is fun. We have to be we have to be fun, not funny. But yeah, it's always something that we always have to do for the love of our children.
Mhm. Yes. So, again, unless there's something else that you would like to add, Ms. Rice, it's just been an honor to speak with you, to hear your story, to just thank you again for what you do, and just know that is very. I'm honored always to meet any educator, but it's very honored. I'm very honored to meet you today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Okay,
Mr. Rye.
Thank you.
okay. All right. Thank you.